Yeah, today's topic is Azure Storage. So Azure Storage is nothing but it is one of the service in Microsoft Azure. So what we can do, we can use this service and we can store our files and folders and our virtual machines or any other data you wanted. Okay, you can even save the services or data or files and folder or any content that you want. Okay, that is called as Azure Storage. If you look at here, in the Azure, by using the Azure storage services, you can store any type of data. Okay. If you look at here, you have this Azure Blob Storage. In the storage itself, you have multiple storage types actually. Okay. So there are four types of two storage accounts in the four type of storages in the Azure storage services. One is the Microsoft Azure Blob Storage. Okay, if you look at here, the blob storage means that is a storage that is the cheapest storage in Microsoft Azure, and it can stores the unstructured data. See, this blob storage is there, na? This blob storage will help you to store the unstructured data. Means before I get started here, I just told you Azure Storage Service means it is one of the service. Using that service, you can store the data. The data can be any type of data. Either that can be a structured data, unstructured data, no video file, and no text file, or any archival data. It can be anything. But if you further want to know the in deeper, okay, this storage further classified into four types of storage. The first one is Azure Blob Storage. The Azure Blob Storage is nothing but this is one of the storage type in Azure where you store all the unstructured data. Means when I said unstructured data, this is the place you can store n number of data or any type of data. See, data can be stored everywhere. Either you can store it in blob storage, file storage, table storage, or queue storage. Wherever you want, you have unlimited storage amount. But the content of the content can be stored will be different. This is like a D drive, E drive in your laptop, or a data drive in your laptop, or even the hard disk like in your laptop or desktop. You can store any data right there. You can copy movies, you can copy images, you can copy text files, you can copy PDF. Means there is no restrictions to store the data. That is called as blob storage. Means that is called as unstructured data. Means there is no segregation, guys. There is no limitation, there is no specification that you need to no store only this specific type of data. That is called as unstructured data. Unstructured data means you can put anything that you want. Okay, and the blob storage is the blob storage is the very cheapest storage in the Azure. Means that is a very less cost when compare to the other data storage, right, data types. So this blob one is very cheaper. Okay, now you can store, one second guys, and now, right, you can store the any type of data in the Azure blob storage. And then second was the file storage. So in the real-time offices, you may have a server called file server. Any idea about the file server? Have you ever heard of a server called file server? Means you will have a server where you can store your files and folders in your office. Why do you need files and folders or server? Because in order to remove the dependency and in order to store the data in a central store, and any user that he or she want to store the data, he can just, or he or she can store the data in the respective files and folders in the storage server or the file store server or the file server, right? So in Azure, what you can do, you can also create a storage to create a file storage. Means multiple user can access the same files and folders at the same time. So that you can, instead of having a server and then configure the storage server, file server, what you can do, you can just create the storage account in the Azure, and you can just leverage those storage accounts as a file storage as well. Means multiple users can use the same files and folders, and multiple multiple region can also access the same files and folder. Okay, that is called as file storage. Next one is table storage. Table storage means any kind of structured data. Means you have structured data, means only Excel file should be dumped, or any files that has got columns and rows. Those kind of data can be stored in the table storage. Means you have a student database, you have an employee database. Okay, those data will be stored in the columns and rows. Okay, the same goes for the, the same kind of data can be stored in the table storage. Then the queue storage, guys. The queue storage is nothing but if you want to store any kind of transactional data, like your credit card billing or your SMS, one after the other, queue service based data, right? That can be stored in the queue storage. Okay, maybe your ATM transaction, your Paytm transaction, your UPI transactions, or your credit card payments, online any kind of bookings, everything will be stored in the queue storage kind of storage. Okay, let us understand and even more deeper about this four storage type here. As I told you, the Microsoft Azure, the blob storage, you can see that is the first type of data, and it allow you to store any type of data, unstructured data. So blob means it is nothing but binary large object. Blob is nothing but binary large object. Means you can store n number of data or any type of data. And to store large object, there is no restrictions. You can put one file of 1 MB, or you can even put one file of 1 TB also, and the blob storage will allow you to place that particular data in the blob storage. Okay, and to store the unstructured data means there is no restrictions. You can put n number of data or n type of data. See here, you can see the images, files, music, videos, etc., etc., right? That is called as unstructured data. Next, like it is like your laptop D drive, where you can store the data. Like in your D drive, you can put any n number of data, in any type of data. That is called as the unstructured data. So next one, the file storage. You see here, to store the data which needs to be shared among multiple users. In the real-time office also, you will have the same thing. Means when I talk about storage account, the file storage, in that file storage you can put any type of data, and that storage server, that file server will be accessed by multiple users. Say for example, you have users from Hyderabad, you have user from Bangalore, you have user from Pune, Delhi, wherever. You will have a single server, and that's where that server will have a name like maybe your facebook.com/storage/bng/username will be there. So if you just know the path, you can access that actually. The same fashion, in the Azure also, you can create a dedicated storage account, and you can map those drives, map those storage as a drive in the local computer. Okay, so there also you can put any type of data. That is similar to the that is similar to the blob storage only. That will also allow you to put any type of data that you wanted. Okay, but it can be accessible at the same time from multiple users, multiple locations, and that can be attached as a drive. That's the file storage. Okay, next one is queue storage. I told you, any data which needs to be processed in a queue manner, like Paytm transactions, Google Pay transactions, Phone Pay transactions, credit card billing, online payments, everything is called as first come first serve. Means it's a queue concept. Means the transactions will be taken up and completed just one after the other transitions or transactions. Okay, that is called as queue storage, and each message of maximum size is 64 KB, guys. This is important. See, in the first two storage type, I told you there is no limitations. You can put how much bigger or how much smaller amount of file you wanted to push, you can put. But in case of queue storage, each message of maximum 64 KB only. The messages you will get now, like your credit card statement is so and so, or your bank transaction is so and so, all those messages will be less than 64 KBs only. So when you make any kind of transactions, Google Pay or Phone Pay transactions, the transaction information will be stored in a text, I mean image file or a text file, not image, it a text file, and it stores as a separate information in the queue storage. Okay, and maximum validity is in 7 days. That is why, guys, when you do the transactions in the phone pay, sometimes the it gets failed, and it will tell you maximum next 48 hours you will see the you will get to know the whether the payment has failed or success. Okay, to know the status, or wait for 48 days to know the status, like that they will give. So maximum 7 days, minimum can be anything. Nowadays everybody keeps minimum is 2 days or 48 hours, maximum 7 days. 7 days, what will happen? After 7 days, the data gets automatically truncated. Means it will get deleted. Anything older any data that is older than 7 days, right? That will get truncated automatically or purged automatically. Okay, that is called as queue storage. The next one is the table storage. See, table storage will only allow you to store the structured data. Like I told you in the previous slide, it will help you to store the data of the employees or student information or any kind of databases, product informations, company informations. Those kind of informations will be help you to. I mean, this table storage will help you to store such kind of data: name, qualification, experience, phone number, address, etc., etc. Or you can even store no SQL data. Example, Cosmos DB, like that. Means no SQL data means it's not an SQL database, right? Such kind of data can be stored in the table storage. So these are all the four storage types we have in the storage services of Azure. Okay, so before we get, before we get into that, so now you know what is the storage services and how many types of storages you have in the Azure. Okay, next is we would like to understand how can you create a storage service. So in the Azure, we have a storage service, and that storage service we will call it a storage account. So you have to create an account. You have to go to the Azure portal and search Azure storage account, and there you create a service. That storage account, that is, you will create a service called storage account, and that storage account has got multiple types actually. One is general purpose version 2, another one is general purpose version 1, another is blob storage account. Means while you are trying to create an account, storage account, it will tell you whether you want storage account version 1, or you want storage version 2, or you want blob storage account. So if you straight away tell blob storage account, it will directly take you to just create one container like that. But if you want version 1 and version 2, it depends. See, the version 1 is the older version. When Azure started, right, when they bought in this storage services, that time they will allow you to create some kind of storage account. It's a version 1. It has not got much redundancies, security, all those stuff. As soon as they're evolving and they're fine tuning the services, they're fine tuning the services, and in implementing new additional features, then they bought a new type of storage account that is called as version 2. If you see the difference here, I am in the version 1, I'm only calling out it's a older version. It is cheaper than V2 storage. Means anywhere, wherever you go, right, anything that you are getting cheap means it that doesn't have that much of features or in a quality. Correct, right? Then if you go to the version 2, it is a new storage version. That is the latest version of the storage account we have in the current market, and it has got new features will be added here. Further additional features got added there. What are those new features? It will allow ZRS, means zone redundant storage. Earlier in the version 1, it doesn't have zone redundant storage. Means you store the data in a single storage box, and if that storage box get collapse, or got crashed, you won't have your data. But in case of version 2, it will facilitate you multiple types of redundancy. Means do you want locally redundant, you want regional redundant, or you want zonal redundant, whatever redundancy you wanted you can opt, but the price will be differ from one type of redundancy to the another type of redundancy. So compared to the version 1, the version 2 account is very expensive. almost double the price. Version 1 is like 100 rupees, version 2 is like 100 rupees, 200 rupees, two times of the general purpose one, because there you have data security, there you have data redundancy, and you can choose whatever type of no redundant options you wanted and customization you wanted in case of version 2. But the blob storage is also cheaper. There is no segregation actually. You can just create one storage account, and inside that you can create multiple containers. One container for Wintel team, one container for maybe some operating system files, another container for your Excel file, another container for your data file, another one is for your audio files. Like that, you can create multiple containers, and you can keep the data inside the storage. And blob storage will also allow you to have multiple types of data, right? I mean, unstructured data. So you can use it for any purposes you wanted. Okay. Normally, normally we use blob storage only until and unless we don't have any specific thing, or any, if you want any archival kind of, like you have some huge amount of data in the on-premises, and the on-premises server is getting aged, that's out of warranty. Physical server, it's out of warranty. Operating system is also, it's 2012, it's legacy, right? So what you can do, you can move the data from your on-premises to this blob storage account. So while creating the blob storage account, it will give multiple options. Actually, you want cold tier, you want hot tier, or you want archival data. So archival means there is no transaction. So you are just keeping the data for a future purpose. That's all. And you don't retrieve the data, or you don't write the data very frequently. That is called as archival data, and that is very cheaper. Okay, so these are all the storage account types we have, and little bit explanation about the each storage types. Okay, and if you look at here, Azure storage account, the features of Azure storage account, this is the very important slide. Okay, see, the durability and the high availability means the durability and the high availability means the data whatever you are storing in the storage account, right, it is safe in case of transient hardware failure. Means in case of hardware failure, the data whatever you have stored in the storage box, if the hardware gets fails, okay, so data will be, you can retrieve the data, because Microsoft makes sure it will have a copy of the same data in another hardware also, because they'll give more importance to the data of the customer's business, customer's data. Or in case of any natural disaster happens, you still retrieve the data from another location. It is available anytime. Okay, it is not necessarily, the server is shut down and you need to power on and then retrieve. It is not like that. Your data will be available 24/7, provided if you have internet connection. That's all. To establish the connection from your office or your home network to the data, the data center, you need internet. Once you have the internet, when you have the connection, definitely you can read the data anytime. Okay, and the data can be synchronized to multiple regions. That's what I said. Your primary region, Western Europe. When you select ZRS, Zone Redundant Service, Storage Account Service, then it will make sure that the copy of the data will be kept in 3 locations. Okay, any 3 peered locations. Peered means connected, like locations or nearby locations, it will keep. So imagine you have the storage account in India. In India, we have 3 data center: West, South, and Central India. Correct, right? If you keep in South, one copy will be there in West, one copy will be there in Central, South. Okay, so 3 copies will be maintained. That is called as durability and high availability. Durability means the data is available anytime, and the data can be kept for n number of days. There is no restrictions for the retention, and the data can be copied for multiple regions. Okay, that is called as durability and high availability. Next one is secure. Whatever data you keep it in the storage account, right, that data is very much encrypted. So Microsoft, they have they have cabled between the regions. They have their own network. That network we call it as Microsoft backbone network, and the data gets traveled between the data center, right, that is end-to-end encrypted. They use multiple advanced algorithms to encrypt the data which gets traveled between the source and destination. So sometimes I will tell, not sometimes, even Microsoft will not be able to see what is the data get transacted between the source and destination. So that much of security. Okay, and next one is scalability. Scalability means what? If you have if you have on-premises server, say for example you have 1 TB of storage, so you need to plan your capacity accordingly. Means every year you are consuming 100 GB of data, you are increasing 100 GB of data, and the total capacity you have is 1 TB. Means maximum 10 years data can be kept. So as soon as you are reaching around 9 years, you need to worry about the next 2 years capacity. Either you have to delete the unwanted data, the last data of last first 2 years or 3 years, or what you can do, if the data is very very important, if the data is a user database or financial database, you cannot delete like that, correct? Huh? Then what we can do, you have to increase that capacity to 1 TB to 1.5 TB or 2 TB, correct? Now keeping the future usage. In case of Azure, it is not like that. Azure, it is like pay as you go. So they will just connect you to the pool of storage they have. There is no limitations at all for the storage. You want 10 terabyte or 10 petabyte or 1000 petabyte. Everything is available there. Okay. It is not, it is not like there is no restrictions. I mean, it is like there is no restrictions actually. You want 100 GB, you have the space readily. You have 100 petabyte, you have that space readily. You don't need to worry about the increasing or decreasing the capacity. That gets automatically handled in case of storage accounts. The same thing, you can increase and decrease your storage capacity as per your requirement and pay for what you used. You don't need to plan the capacity, you can just increase or nowadays it is not even increasing and decreasing, guys. You just copy the data. Microsoft will only charge you how much ever data or space you have consumed, that's all. Okay, that is the scalable option. Next one is managed storage. Means Azure will handle all the hardware maintenance and update installations and any hardware issues for you, and no management hectic like maintenance or failure activity update. Means if you have a storage account and storage server in your office, what you have to do, you have to do the patching activity, you have to do the maintenance activity, you have to do firmware upgrade activity. A lot of activities are there, and you need to take the downtime approval from the customer. You have to communicate with the customer. There are many things. Okay, so here, but in case of Azure, it is not like that. Everything is managed, guys. Here, I mean, everything is managed by who manages this? Microsoft manage it is. You don't have to manage anything. When somebody talks about managed services, that means that manage will be done by the customer. The cloud provider will do the management. For you, it is hectic free. You don't need to worry about the managing the things. And accessible, guys, accessible means you can, if you have internet connection, you can use either HTTP or HTTPS, depend upon your security requirement. You can just access, just connect to the internet, use the URL and connect it, that's all. Okay, so I can create a storage account, and you can even connect the storage account to your laptop just by running one commands. So that is, these are all the features of Azure storage accounts. Okay, any question here? Okay. So the same thing. See, blob storage. If you want to understand more about the blob storage, see, blob storage means the binary large object. It's optimized for storing the massive amount of unstructured data, such as text or binary data. Okay. So see here, the same thing. Binary large object means it will allow you to store the massive amount of unstructured data. Okay, and if you look at blob storage is used for what? Serving images and documentary directly to the browser, storing files and distributed access, streaming videos and musics. See, nowadays this OTT come, no? OTT, like Z5, Hotstar, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Everybody use the blob storage only. That is why whenever there is no network connectivity, it will like streaming. That circle will come and it will just streaming will be coming. Means it will try to retrieve the data from the storage account, and then it will start to present the data. That is, I mean, these are all the usage of the storage. Okay, the blob storage, and it will also help you to store the backup and disaster recovery. Okay, I told you, I mean, while I starting, you can even keep the virtual machine data, database backup data, everything can be stored in the blob storage. And you can even configure the disaster recovery. When you are creating the disaster recovery, the DR, right, we have to create a storage account. So the data, what happens, whatever data is there in the primary region, that gets copied and kept in the storage account only, the storage account which is created in the DR region. So we are using the blob storage for the disaster recovery usage as well. And then storing the data of archival and analysis purpose. I told you, if you have a data and data need just for the storage purposes, for the future usage, maybe it's an archival or an analysis purposes. That since it is the cheapest storage, you can just leverage that and you can store the data for n number of days. And the next one is objects in the blob storage will be accessed from anywhere in the world using internet via HTTP. That's the same thing I told. If you want to access the data, you just need an internet connection. That's all. You can access like just go. Okay, and there are three types of resources are there. One is the storage account. Inside the storage account, the hierarchy. Okay, you have to create the account. Inside the account, you can create multiple containers, and inside the containers, you can put the data blobs. We call it as binary large object. Each and every file is called as blobs. Inside the container, you can store it. So what you can do, you can just go to the Azure portal, create a storage account, and once you create the storage account, whether it is version 1, version 2 or blob, you can select there. And once you create it, under that you can create multiple containers. Okay, inside the container you can store the files. Like you can create the pictures, or you can create the movies, or you can create the Excel. Like that you can create the container. Under that you can put file 1, file 2, file 3, like that. Okay, so each and everything is called as a blob here inside the blob storage. Okay, so 100% in the interview they'll ask what is storage account and what is the usage of blob storage. This like this only they'll tell you. Blob storage means binary large object, so it is used to store the unstructured data. And yeah, it stores unstructured data means any type of data. Okay, like that you have to tell. So if you see the container means it organizes the set of blobs similar to the directory. Means if you want to create segregation, right? Like inside the storage, if you want to see the separately, all the movies one side, all the images one side, all the PPTs one side, you can create separate container and you can just keep the data inside it. That's called a container. And if you look at here, see, if you create a storage account, it will come like this. You see the above URL http:// my storage account.blob.core.windows.net. If you have just this URL, you can connect this storage account into your laptop, okay, as a network drive, and you can start dumping the data there. Okay, and then multiple other types are there. In a blob is there, append blob is there, page blob is there. Okay, blob is store text and binary data up to 4.7 terabytes of blobs are remade up of are made up of the see, I think it's some text mistake. Okay, stores yeah, blob storage means it's blob means it stores the text and binary data, and you can store the data up to 4.7 terabytes. Okay, blobs are made up of blocks of data that can be managed individually. Means every data is stored as a separate block. Okay, whenever we are moving the data, the entire block can be moved to other places. Okay, that it is easy for management. That is why we create blobs. Next one is append blob. As the name itself suggests, see, append blobs are made up of blocks like blobs only, but are optimized for append operations. Say, for example, you create a blob for 1 terabyte, and future if you want to increase that or you want to add some more data to that, that that blob can get extended. 1 terabyte was there and you are adding 100 GB extra, so 1.1 terabyte it will become, so it gets appended. That is called as append blob. See, these are all not required for you, just an information. Okay, and page blob. Page blob is nothing but, see, page blobs used for structured data. It stores random access data files up to 8 terabyte in size. Okay, and page blob stores the virtual hard drive. Means I told you, know, when I started the Azure class, I told you any cloud provider for that matter, it is of like what we call it as tenanting system. Means the cost in the Azure is like pay as you go, correct, right? Pay as you go means whatever amount of time you use the services, for that time you have to pay for it, correct, right? So I told you during the off business hours you can shut down the servers to save the cost. The same thing here, when you shut down the computer, right? So what happens, that operating system will get store in a storage account, okay? And that storage account is nothing but page blob storage account. So that time what happens, your computer will get free. Say for example, there is one hardware, as soon as you power on your virtual machine, your hard disk, that VHD whatever is gets stored in the page blob, right? That gets loaded to one particular hardware, that is called as compute. Compute is nothing but memory and CPU. Correct. Now computer needed only that one. You already have virtual hard disk. Whenever you power on, whatever operating system is there in this virtual hard disk, that gets loaded in the hardware at the data center. Correct, right? So if you shut down that operating system will release that hardware, and it get released, and it will store as a virtual hard disk VHD in the page blob storage account type. Okay, that is the use. If people ask where is your VHD will be stored, you can tell. Okay. Yes. I mean, example you can see here, Azure SQL DB uses for the page blob. Okay, any SQL databases will be use the page blobs only. And Azure file storage, the same thing. I already explained, multiple VM can share the same file with both read and write access. Means you can create one file storage, you can attach that multiple servers, and from all the server multiple users can use the data, read the data, write the data same time simultaneously. So Azure file storage supports that. So it uses server message block, SMB protocol. Server message, I mean SMB means, see, if you want to access the data from one computer to another computer, what you will do, you will just go like this and type your, and you type just the server name or the IP address, and if you hit enter, so you can see the data which get shared. Okay, now no, I don't have this server, that's the reason you're getting message. If the server is up and running, you can see the shared content of the server called DC01. Okay, so that is used with the help of SMB only. SMB protocol will help you to look at the shared content from the other server. Okay, that is called as SMB. And file share can be used for many common scenario, replace or supplement or on-premises file server. I mean, replace or the supplement as the on-premises file server you can use. List and shift operations. List and shift operation means if you want to move the data from one on-premises to cloud or cloud to on-premises, that is also useful here. Benefits. It has got the shared access. You can share the access for multiple user. Fully managed services. You don't have to manage. Everything is managed by Microsoft. They will only update the hardware. They will only update the firmware. Okay. All the management burden will be limited to, I mean, restricted or resided for the Azure only. Okay. And the resiliency always available. Okay, you have multiple options, zone redundant, other options also. Okay, and it supports scripting also. I mean, if you have large number of data, you can do script for writing the operations, reading the operations, or extracting the operations. You can use the scripts also here. Okay, that is the benefits of the storage file services. Queue storage already know. I mean, queue storage means the first come first serve. Okay, to do any kind of transactional information, and the maximum capacity of the each message is 64 KB, and validity will be 7 days. Okay, this is the queue storage. Common usage you see here: creating a backlog of work to process asynchronously, means you this online transactions, so they will just keep you to wait for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, loading, or a payment is happening. Okay, such kind of informations, what will happen, it will get dumped, it will be queued, and it will be picked up one by one. Say for example, you have a payment gateway, 100 users are started doing the payment at the same time, but only one gateway is there, so that gateway can process per minute around 10 transactions, but 100 users are there. You are 50th 60 users. That's why it will tell you it is loading, please wait, don't cancel these transactions, because it will try to accommodate everybody, but it manages like who comes first, he will just do the transaction completed and then he will allow you to exit. That is why this queue storage will be used. Okay, and see the passing message from an Azure web role to the worker role means in the Azure we have web role and worker role. Web role means the person who access, worker role means the transactions happens inside the server. Okay, so that is about that. And worker role means does not use the IaaS and runs your app standalone. I mean, just a note, it is web role means it automatically deploys and hosts your app through IaaS. You have one particular dedicated server who has got IaaS installed and he will do the operations. But in case of worker role, he doesn't need IaaS. Okay, and runs your app standalone. Without the IaaS, only you can host the applications in the cloud. That is called as worker role. For you, don't need. For you, only need is queue storage means what? Only queue kind of data can be transacted, and the storage capacity is 64 KB for each file, and the capacity is 7 days. Okay, and it serves first come first serve, the queue manner. Okay, that is about the queue storage. And the table storage, you already know, table storage is nothing but the storage kind of thing actually, or no structure or no SQL data, okay, can be saved it here. Okay, you can use the table storage to store the flexible data sets like your user data, web application data, your address book, your student database, employee database, such kind of data or other metadata also. So the data science, data analytics, and all, they normally use this table kind and table type of data only because they have huge data. Okay, and what they will do, they will write scripts, they will do the analysis, they'll find some pattern out of it. Okay, this is only used. Storing the TBs, common uses of the storage or table storage are storing the TBs of structured data capable of serving web scale applications, quickly querying data using clustered index. Means you have n number of data there. What you can do, you can write some automations, or you can bring in some kind of intelligence to look at the data and retrieve information, some identify the pattern, trend analysis, all those things can be done using the this table storage. Okay, so with that we are done with the theory. Any questions? If no questions, I'll just stop the recording. Wait.